All right, guys. Hey, welcome to pathway number one. This one is going to be about our spiritual anatomy. You'll remember that word from the initial video where we talked about how important this is, and we'll dive into all the details. Where does this come from? How does this work? Why does it matter? All of that. But what I want to set us up with at the beginning here is that our spiritual anatomy exists inside of all of us. This is operating inside of all of us. And when it is in a immature state, when it's not brought to maturity, this is where the biggest fractures in our life happen. Our disconnection with God, our disconnection with others, the painful things that are there, the not knowing how to get by, that spinning around inside, the fractures, like there's so much to be said about this. So I know you don't understand that yet, but I just want to front load with that to say like, hey, pay attention as we go into this. It's going to be really helpful for you, really important for any kind of work that you do on your own inward journey towards health and healing and freedom and a depth of intimacy and communion with God and others. Okay. That being said, where does this come from? I didn't create this on my own. This was developed by my mentor, Dr. Jake Smith Jr. And over the years of working with him, being trained by him, I've become a bit of a specialist or a bit of an expert in using this, one for myself and then also leading others through it as well. So with that, where does it come from? This comes from the Shema. If you're not familiar with the Shema, that is a prayer found in Deuteronomy 6. And it's also when Jesus is asked, hey, what's the most important commandment? It's what he quotes in his response. I'm going to share my screen here and you guys can take a look at this. So when Jesus quotes it, he's asked, what's the most important commandment? He quotes it. The one that he says, you guys have read this. This is from the Mark 12 version. He says, the most important one, answered Jesus, is this. Hear, O Israel, that's the Shema. The Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. And the second is this, love your neighbor as yourself. There is no commandment greater than these. Now that's familiar for all of us, right? And what we see here is 4 unique systems. Heart, soul, mind, strength, right? There's 4 there. And so if these, we call that our spiritual anatomy, but think of this like if we were familiar with our physical anatomy, right? We got a skeletal system, respiratory system, muscular system, et cetera, et cetera. These are all systems that operate together as a part of our actual physical being, our physical body. What we see here in the Shema, what we see here in Jesus' response there is we see 4 systems that create our psycho-spiritual being, or we can just simply call it the spiritual anatomy, right? So physical being, physical anatomy, psycho-spiritual being, spiritual anatomy. Make sense? Pretty straightforward comparison right there. And so this is a visual example of those 4 parts, those 4 systems inside of us that make our spiritual anatomy. The idea here is just like our body has those systems. A respiratory system brings oxygen into the body and does a bunch of other cool stuff that my doctor's sister could explain to you, but I don't know how to do that. What I can talk to you about is our spiritual anatomy. We have a heart system. We have a soul system. We have a mind. Did I say one yet? We have a mind system. We have a strength system. These are all systems that operate inside of us and need to work together that when they're healthy, we become healthy beings, healthy creatures created by God. So all these systems exist inside of you. They're operating it all the time. And the goal here is to learn to bring them to maturity and health. So I'm going to give us 4 basic definitions to start off with. What we have here is, if you look, I'll start at the bottom with heart. We have heart is feeling. We have then strength, going up to the right, is doing. Mind is thinking. Soul is dreaming. So you think like, I like how Andy Crouch says it, we're heart, soul, mind, strength complexes. In other words, we all feel, think, do, and dream, or whatever order you want to say it in. So hopefully that's like you can reach for that in your pocket, really simple to memorize. As you're going through this, just pay attention to which part of my system am I engaging with. Right now you're using your mind as you're learning, you're thinking. Right? But when you're maybe, when are you dreaming? What are you doing? It's the action one. What are you feeling, right? So we're going to go deep on those first, but first here's a little bit of the plan. So I'm going to go through each system. Each system, we're going to kind of pull it apart. We're going to give it a definition. We're also going to talk about the immaturities within those systems, which are going to be really helpful and important. And that's going to be all up here in your head, and you're going to be thinking about it. You're going to be using your mind. It's going to be really good. But then we're going to transition, like I said previously, to an exercise, because I want you to then embody this. I want you to do something with this, because it's not going to change who you are. Your life won't feel any different inside of you if you just learn about it. So the final thing will be the exercise. We're going to start with strength. So you can see this little graphic I have here. The strength system, what this is here, we have the what on this side. Is my mouse on this screen? There you go, what. So this is our doing, creating, working. This is a part of you that there's mastery involved here. This is how you're empowered to establish yourself. This is how you take care of yourself. This is how you provide for yourself. This is how you achieve. This is this is why it's do. Strength is do, right? This allows you to embody your beliefs, your philosophies, to live them out, okay? What it also does, it provides you with the dignity to ensure that you're not dependent on others and you can take care of yourself. Of course, we're talking about adults here, we're not talking about kids, but caring of ourselves is an adult thing to do. So that's what the strength system is. Now, it matters a whole lot because it's our independence, our mastery, our contribution, as you can see there. Now, as you see below, we're going to go over each one. You have this little triangle deal. On the bottom here, we have what an immature strength looks like. And we have these two different poles here. We have the active pole, we have the passive pole. And so if you think about it, like if our strength is left in an immature state, what happens is it'll manifest in an active way or a passive way. Both of these are immature and they both look very different. And this exists inside of each one of these systems. So briefly, just to cover it, when the strength is manifesting immaturely in an active sense, it's a sadist is the word there. Not a very nice word, but it really captures the idea. This is like taking advantage of others. This is using others. This is objectifying people. This is like you're charging so fast and far ahead that you're leaving people in the wake broken and bleeding and hurting, right? This is an immature, active strength. Now, on the other side, we have the immature, passive strength. This is the masochist. This is, I'm just going to roll over and allow others to take advantage of me, and I can't apply myself to life, and very passive, opposite side here of strength. So we obviously don't want either of these. We'll talk about growth here in a second, but that's strength to start with. Next, let's talk about mind. This one's really fun for me because I often tend to be pretty mind dominant and have to learn to be more healthy with that. But the mind matters here is it's because it's our thinking, our judging, and our learning. Obviously very important just from the definitions there. But what that does is it creates structure and stability in our life. And that helps us then have like realistic expectations, and we can honor our limits as humans when we can use our mind in a healthy way. What it does is like I said here, structure and stability, we can establish as well the theological, the philosophical things that serve as the foundations of our life. So like we're not just out here spinning in chaos, right? We can actually think through, this is why things are, and this is the structure I have. I love to say this one really simply is like, if you use a calendar, you're using your mind. As you're creating a structure so you can actually do the things in your life that you need to show up and be responsible to. Really important. However, the mind has immature poles as well. When the mind is left in an immature state, on the active side, it's a tyrant. Whew. I have some feelings saying that because this is very much where I can go as a tyrant here. As a tyrant, this is like, hey, I'm the smartest one in the room. I'm not interested in your thoughts or your opinions. I say jump, you say how high. Very tyrannical. Is that the word? Controlling, and I can think through so much that I can create the system. I'm going to take charge and be the tyrant with it. So that's the active, immature pole of the mind. Now, the immature side on the passive end is the abdicator. Very simply like I'm abdicating my power, right? So this is like I choose not to acknowledge my responsibilities or acknowledge my abilities, my capacities, what I'm capable of. I'm not going to organize and systematize. I'm going to be indecisive. I'm going to push my responsibilities onto somebody else, right? This is the passive abdicator part of the mind. Okay, now let's go to, not strength, let's go to soul. Oh, I love the soul. Soul's such a fun place. Remember, it's dream, right? If you ever daydreamed as a kid a lot, you might be kind of a soul dominant person. The soul here is our being, dreaming, and envisioning, right? The soul part of us grounds us in who you are and what your life is all about. That's why it's being here. This is very important, right? Like who are you? If we get rid of all the external things, who are you? Oh, I'm a child of God. Okay, what does that look like as a unique individual that's created and known by God? Well, that's very soul work right there. What matters, because this is, like I just said, identity and purpose comes from right there. This system is really where your vision and your dreams emerge from. And it matters so much because it's where the meaning and significance is found for all of us. Now, we're in a secular world in the West where it's all about, project self and all this. So I can see how that might rub against some of that. So let's talk about the immature states of this, right? Just because that's all there doesn't mean it can't be immature. Now it sure can be. On the active side, we have the con artist. Again, this is hits home for me because I'm pretty mind and soul dominant and usually on the active side. And so the con artist shows up in the active way as an immature soul. It's like settling for just getting the sale. This is building the empire. This is doing whatever I need to do to get you to think whatever I want you to think or do whatever I want you to do. Like it's the kind of that manipulative, seductive, conning part of like, well, I can dream it and create this vision of it. I can probably coax you into believing it too. So that is something that I can do and I've become aware of, and I have to, be aware of that I can do that and work toward a healthy soul for me. Now on the passive side of the immature soul, we have the faux naif. It's a funny, fun word there. And this is like the innocent dummy. I'm not going to see what I see. I'm going to pretend to know less than what I actually know. And we see this all the time as well. It's like, I know you're pretty smart, but you're acting like you're not smart. This is like I don't know how to describe it beyond that. I just imagine someone that's done that. Maybe you've done that, right? That's like very soul, but it's this passive, I'm letting go of my responsibility to have a healthy soul, and it's coming out in this immaturity like this way. So that's soul. Now, the last one we'll land on here that is super important because the heart part of us is so disconnected in our culture, and rarely are we taught how to have healthy hearts. The other ones we can kind of make sense of because there's always an external factor. There's always like an external, I can achieve something, but the heart is so just about relationships that we don't look at it in the same way because, as you can see here, what the heart is, it's feeling and it's needing and it's connecting. And we don't love to talk about feeling and needing in our culture. We want to be independent people who can take care of ourselves. And to do that, we're going to ignore our hearts and just do get the metrics right on the outside. And so our heart is our feeling and it's our needing. And it matters because this is where healthy and intimate relationships come from. What our heart system does is it ensures that you have what you need to participate in deeply connected, lasting relationships. And the thing here is that our feelings and our needing are very connected. In fact, they cannot be separated. If we have a feeling, they're always connected to a need, which we'll get to in pathway number 2. But for now, I just want you to know that heart here, feeling and needing. And as what commonly comes up and is commonly pushed against is like, well, that doesn't mean I should just wear my heart on my sleeve, does it? Well, that doesn't mean you should just shove your feelings down, does it? It's like, well, yeah, obviously no. So what does healthy look like? Well, that's why we have the immature sides. On the active side, we have the addict, right? This is the active, bleeding, heart on the sleeve kind of thing. And the manifestation of this is like, I don't know when to withhold to tell you what's going on inside of my heart and when not to. Or I demand that you will always have the same emotional reactivity or response that I do. Or I'm emotionally reactive in ways that aren't beneficial to a relationship. I've done a lot of this myself, even though it's not my dominant go-to here. One way to point it out is if you're talking about addiction recovery, what addiction recovery is trying to recover is not sobriety, but it's intimacy. So the immature active side of the heart there is the addict. Now on the passive side, immature, we have the anorexic, right? This would be completely opposite, right? Now this one looks like the withdrawing. Obviously this isn't related to food. This is the walling off. This is avoiding connection and intimacy. This is the deflating how I'm feeling because it doesn't feel safe for me or whatever the case might be. And this is oftentimes where we see relational tension between two people, whether they're married or dating or just friends, It's like one person's like reaching to connect and they're bringing their heart to it, and the other person like doesn't know what to do with it, or they just haven't developed that heart part of them and they're more anorexic over here, more passive. And so that intimacy isn't formed there. I've had clients I've worked with where one spouse is very addictive heart and the other spouse is very anorexic heart, and it's like, why can't we connect, in our marriage, right? And it's like, okay, well, that person's bleeding and they need an ER, not a marriage, and that person doesn't even know they have a heart. So you, buddy, got to get your heart, and you, buddy, got to go like not bleed anymore because they don't want to take care of your blood. They just want to love you and feel with you, and So it's like you get the idea here, right? Really important. Okay, so that is the overview of the spiritual anatomy. What I want to do is show you here a quick example of what mine looks like. This is a sketch that I drew. Of course, this is always in flux. This isn't rigid and stuck this way. But what I drew here is you see this little road here. I called this soul. And then I got a nail inside of that road. I called that heart. And there's a little guy over here. This is strength. And he's wielding this hammer, slamming it down onto the nail. And so what I was kind of depicting here is like my soul is this pathway, this road of where I'm going and where I'm headed, and it's just kind of always connected to God's leading. It's this awesome thing, and my heart's a part of that. But it's kind of I don't know if you can get it inside the soul, because like, can you get a nail inside of pavement? I don't know. I've never tried it. And then my strength there, it's definitely there, and I can make stuff happen. But the way that I do that is with my mind, and I just beat my heart down into submission so that I can get on that soul path and go where I want to go. And so unfortunately, that's some of my fractures. It's like big soul, big mind can really crush my heart, and I can forget to even use my strength sometimes. I can make really good to-do lists, guys. That doesn't mean I do them though. It's very mind and soul of me. I can educate you and teach you in relationship, but sometimes just being with you, I suck at that, which is part of my fracture. So that leads us to, well, what do we do with all this spiritual anatomy stuff? So there's 3 goals to our spiritual anatomy. The goal here is to have all 4 of these systems attached, nourished, and integrated. So let me break down what each of these mean. That means that each of these systems are actually a part of your anatomy. So think if I just took my lungs out and I stuck them on the table over there, they wouldn't be attached to me anymore, correct? So now that oxygen isn't coming into my body, which means that none of the rest of my body is thriving, which means eventually I'll die. And even though we're talking about spiritual anatomy here, you can be dead spiritually inside and have a body alive. We don't want to be there. And if that's you, well, please do this, because we need you in this world. And there's so much goodness waiting for you if you resurrect your spirit. That sounds weird. Don't read into that theologically. I'm just tripping over my words. Okay, so we need those lungs inside of the body. They need to be attached, right? Okay, so our heart system needs to be attached. Our soul system needs to be attached. Our mind, our strength systems, they all need to be attached and operating inside of us. Now, just because they're operating inside of us doesn't mean that they're healthy. If I stick those lungs back in and then I smoke a pack of cigarettes a day or breathe toxic fumes, it's not going to be healthy for those lungs of mine. So what we need to do then is nourish them to health once they are attached. And so that using that couple that I talked about, one person, their heart wasn't even really attached. So they needed to attach their heart. And then through our work together, they began to learn to bring their heart to health and nourish it. The other person there, their heart was definitely attached, but it doesn't mean it was healthy. They were overemphasizing. And so theirs was a bit of a working backwards of like, what does it look like to probably integrate more mind and soul and strength and learn when I'm being unhealthy with my heart, right? So that's the nourishing part of these systems. And then finally, the last thing is once each system is attached, once each system is nourished to health, the final thing is to have it all integrated together. Integrated meaning I don't lead my life purely from my heart. I don't lead my life purely from my mind, et cetera, et cetera. Rather, I know when to access my mind and my heart and my soul and my strength, depending on what is the moment in front of me, right? Because if there's moments in front of us where it's like, it's strength time. You know, I was an adventure guide for many years. Maybe you know this about me or maybe you don't. And in that time frame, there's so many moments where you're like, I got big feelings about something going on. It's not time to feel about them though. Like someone's life is at risk or someone can get injured or hurt right now. I need to be strength and I need to respond and to like take care of this problem. But if I only stayed in strength and I'm in ministry and I'm sitting around a campfire with somebody and I'm only strength, I'm not going to be able to meet them and help guide them to Jesus if I'm just strength. Or if I am, they're going to have a very lopsided version of spirituality that I helped give them because it's only strength, right? I need to be able to lean into my heart and my soul. It's like, hey, what's God doing in your life? And what am I seeing in a prophetic sense as I'm sitting with them and listening to the Spirit. And then I'm connecting and using my heart and be like, oh, I know what it feels like to go through this. And now a real connection is happening, which can lead to greater growth. And that was a ministry example. Yeah, I didn't actually mean to go with that example, but there's an example for you. So for you, it'd be like, what system of yours isn't attached that needs to be attached? Or maybe they all are. Which one is the least nourished to health? Can you begin to nourish to health? And then finally, remember in those moments of your life, like, hey, I need to live integrated here. I want to respond with my heart to this situation because it's really scary. And I'm not going to ignore my heart, but like right now, I need to use my strength and my mind to figure out a plan to move forward and then do it. Okay, so let's talk about this exercise for you guys. I was going to say, get the PDF because this will be in the PDF and you can reference it. Okay, here's the exercise for the spiritual anatomy part of this. Is throughout your week, bring your attention to your spiritual anatomy. And then actually schedule some time to go reflect in a journal. Like put it in there in the morning, spend 10 minutes. You don't got to spend a lot of time. Just like literally, guys, 10 minutes a day would do so much. 10 minutes a week would be better than nothing, right? So as you reflect in that journal and you're bringing your attention to your spiritual anatomy, look at like, first thing here is what does your spiritual anatomy currently look like? If you think back to this guy, like this is an example of what mine currently looks like. I've done a lot of work around this, so it's very easy for me to recognize when my mind and my soul are running my life and ruining my life. And so then I can work towards a healthier version of that. So, but the first thing here is just awareness. What does your spiritual anatomy currently look like? Number two here, which two systems are kind of the most dominant? Which ones are kind of out in the front, kind of leading the pack? Which ones do you respond to life with the most? And then number three, what value does that system bring into your life? Now, what I want to point out here is I might be more mind and soul dominant, and that has a bunch of problems, but it also brings a ton of values. Like, I've always done things from this place of dreaming and envisioning and being. Like, it doesn't mean I've never been insecure or not know who I am or any of that. I definitely have been insecure and not know who I am. But I've never, like, followed the right path because it's the right path to take. Because I'm such strong soul that I'm dreaming about all these other possibilities. And so my life just hasn't looked like the standard normal, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kind of thing. That's part of the value of being soul dominant. I'm also good at creating structures and plans and systems. So like one of the values is as a teacher, and hopefully you're experiencing this right now, is like usually when I teach things, people are like, that made a lot of sense. I hope that's true. Maybe you could tell me I could work on some of this, and I definitely can. But if I preach, man, like I manuscript preach, and it's very succinct because I don't trust myself to just talk off the cuff like I'm doing now. But that's some of the values that it brings. I can organize really well, and I've got a vision and a dream about where God's taking us. Now, number 4 here is, what does it cost you to live from that system? Man, there are some costs of living mind and soul dominant for me. When I live dominantly from my mind, it destroys relationships. It runs them into the ground. I'm a jerk. I can be such a tyrant and controlling. It's like, well, here's the standards I live by. Why aren't you living by those standards? And then I'm very soul dominant, so I can that I can see beneath the surface. I kind of understand what's happening behind things. I'm very intuitive. And then you pair that with my soul, and now I can judge the hell out of you. I'm like, I can see your motives. They weren't pure. They weren't correct. Here's how you thought through it. Is a terrible way to think through it. Like, I can be so condemning and so judgmental. It's terrible. It's really bad. I could cry about it right now. I've been through some things where I'm like, dude, that was my mind and my soul just ruining the things I care about most, the relationships I care about most, and even that with God. Because if that's all I do with God, then I don't know how to just receive his love and his care for me without anything else. I don't know how to get my needs met with him from a space of my heart, because all I'm doing to do is create a strategy to do it on my own because I'm a tyrant, So that's a little bit of for me. Now, for you, what I want you to do is go through this, become aware of these things, and then watch it in your life, right? Oh, this is the value it brings. I'm going to lean into that. Oh, here's the cost of it. I'm going to lean into that. Or maybe I'm going to lean into it. I'm going to be aware and learn what integration and health looks like. Now, as I said before, remember, all of this, I want you to do this with kindness towards yourself. That's how God sees you. God isn't sitting there judging me, being like, Josh, you're such a tyrant for being a jerk, and you dream about all these things, but you don't get them done the way you should. Like that's not how God's attitude is towards me. It's more like, hey, buddy, you see this? I'm like, yeah, I see that. And God's like, what do you think? I'm like, I don't like it, God. God's like, do you want to do something about it? I'm like, yeah, God help. And he's like, all right, I'll help you, buddy. Come here. Like, God is kind. Be kind with yourself as you do this. And if you don't, nothing's going to change. I'm sorry. You must be kind. Okay, that's it for spiritual anatomy. Again, as a reminder, if you're ready to dive deep, you want to jumpstart the journey, book a free one-on-one with me. I'll walk you through where you're at right now. We can look at some of those fractures. We can dive into your spiritual anatomy. We can look at, here's some of the values, here's some of the costs, and what can I do from here? There's a lot we can make sense of, and I can guide us even past just the first identification pieces there. And we can kind of get ahead of just, now I know, like, now what do I do, right? So this is a place for you to feel seen, feel safe and supported. I'm not here to rush you into anything. You don't have to go alone. Like, you can have the focused attention that you need and that you want. That's something that I'm always looking for, is like, who's just willing to listen to me, right? And then we can move into a place of feeling some relief without like all this same kind of effort of like, I've got to make this happen. Really, really, I value a ton, at least being able to hand that over to somebody else who can guide me through the process. And then from there, like, you can have a plan to go forward. Like, hey, in the next 6 months, let's work on this. Like, do this, And then, of course, if you have any questions, you can ask a lot of those. So I want you to be able to walk away with what you need in the now. So yeah, if you want to do the free one-on-one, there'll be a button somewhere here. Click the button, book a one-on-one, and I'd love to talk with you. That's it for pathway number 1. Let's now dive into pathway number 2.